Welcome everybody to another version of Ask That. My name is Clark Sell. We are live at that conference today. I have with me Mercedes Bernard. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for coming.
Of course.
So we're here to talk about how we can help one another. We've had this kind of exchange, if you will, in Slack on some efforts that you're doing.
Yeah.
And we have, I'll say a platform or an engine, if you will. And what I wanted to do was record this because we don't know where this is going to go.
Right.
And so before we get there, how about a little bio of who you are and kind of what you're cooking?
Sure. So I'm just a senior software engineer. I lead a team of engineers down in Chicago at DevMind.
Okay.
So there's some people who have probably heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JC's.
Yes.
Yep.
JC.
You know him from way back.
Yeah. Pretty awesome guy. So that's what I've been doing, and I recently started a meetup in Chicago that's focused on helping recent grads and boot camp grads in particular get that first dev job.
Okay.
Just because right now in the market, it's so hard to get a junior dev job. So what we do is we pair up these kind of junior devs with more experienced folks for code reviews and pairing sessions.
Okay.
And so it's kind of an informal but formal mentorship where like every event has a little bit more structure.
Sure.
So.
And so the thing that threw me when we first started talking about this was, I guess, semantically some of the words. So you said you started a meetup,
yes.
But then you immediately kind of drop meetup and you end in mentorship and very like face-to-face high fidelity conversation.
Yeah.
So we're not really talking about a meetup. What does like a session really look like?
So what we do is we have people kind of RSVP or register for the event a couple weeks leading up to it.
Okay.
So that a week before we can go through and we can match everybody up. So our we use the words mentee and mentor.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, just.
Yep.
I like it.
For lack of better words.
Yeah. Feels like a partnership and less of like a.
Yes.
I don't know.
Hierarchical relationship.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So the mentee submits code, so just like a GitHub link, a PR, whatever they've got, and then when we match them up, I give that to their assigned mentor. So we match them up based on tech stack. So when our mentors register, they're like, "Oh, I know Ruby, Node, React, Vue, you know, whatever." And so then the mentee is like, "Oh, I wrote a React app," and I can like match them up that way. And so then the mentors have a week to code review and comment and like provide feedback. And we provide some coaching of like what makes good feedback, what to look for. And then at the event, they have about an hour and a half to meet each other and then review the feedback and start pairing on like, hey, you know, you're using 3 versions of jQuery is one thing that came up. Or,
one, did you know that?
Yeah. And, I mean, he didn't because he was using a CDN and he's just like, oh, yeah. And so they work on that or like, you know, just here, refactor this. Like, you're doing the same thing 40 times. Like,
let me show you a better way.
Yeah, let's write a function for this. And so at the end, then it's just, you know, any sort of networking if they want to exchange contact info or whatever. And then the next month, you know, we do it all over again. And so it's meant to be low commitment because if somebody can't come that month, it's fine because there's no, like, long-term, you're assigned this person.
Right. And so what's got me super intrigued about this and why we're here, we were standing in the open spaces room and I said, okay, I want to know how we can help one another. And the thing that's got me so intrigued about this is we have, you know, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people who we interact with, right?
Right.
And part of all of this here is really about this exchange and the doing of one's knowledge. And you've captured a bit of this essence at a, I don't want to say a small scale, but you've got it for a junior person that's doing a thing. And I really want to know and figure out how we can partner together and do this at a scale where, like, I can't help you physically because I'm 75 miles out of Chicago, right?
Yeah.
But I very much want to, and be on both sides. I don't think it's like I'm newish, if you will, to React, but I'm old to Node.
Yeah.
And I've stepped away from other things, but yet still have architectural experience. And so now I look at an audience and say, how could we even expand that conference in the makerspace and whatever, or how can we expand our monthly cadence of things to be able to do something like what you're doing virtually, globally. And I just start thinking about things like, oh, well, internationalization. Well, how great would it be if I could hook you up with somebody who was in Europe,
Right.
so that you could understand the cultural nuances of the person in Europe, not somebody who's done localization in Chicago and pretends like they understand. No offense, I'm not saying that that's the case, but you
No,
see
but
what
I
I'm trying
mean,
to say.
here it's only 2 languages really that you ever have to worry about supporting
Yep.
if you're doing a U.S. focused
Yep.
app. So like,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
do you do localization
Right.
when you've got 13 languages, right?
Right.
No, and that's something that's come up quite a bit. So we've been doing this, well, I've been doing this now for about 3 months,
Yep.
and it's been going really well. And literally from 2 weeks before we even had our first event, we had people like, oh my God, this is great. Like, how do I do it remotely? How do I
Yeah.
do it asynchronously?
Yeah.
Like, what if,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of parents who are like, because my whole thing is I'm trying to keep it an hour and a half because meetups are typically
Yeah.
6 to 9,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
who has
Very
kids
long, laborious. Yep.
yeah. So they're like,
Soccer schedules.
exactly. So, I don't want to take that time away from people. And a lot of parents are like, a lot of these boot camp grads, they don't have a full-time job yet. That's what they're trying to get. So, like, they could come to my office and, like, we could do this. And so trying to figure out, like, what are the other opportunities. I haven't put my finger on it yet because we're still figuring out, like, what
Yep.
we're doing.
Yep.
And I really don't want to give up that face-to-face because
Right.
all the feedback that I've gotten from people who attend the
Yep.
events, like, that's where the value is. And
Yep.
it's not like I opened my PR and somebody, like, virtually put comments
Right.
and I, like, have
Right,
no
right.
context.
Right.
But even figuring out, like, maybe it's a video chat.
Right.
Like, that's enough. That is face-to-face.
That's right.
So I haven't quite figured out how that works yet.
Okay, so I'll assert a few things, and I mean, this is obviously this free-form conversation
Yeah.
because we haven't even had it, and I just wanted to record how we work out to the solution. You touched on you love the face-to-face piece of it.
Yeah.
That's why we do all of this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a fool to think that you're going to walk into a React session here and think, oh, like, hey, Corey House gave me this thing. It's like, well,
Right.
yeah, but you could go find Corey House's thing online and whatever. He's already talked about it. Your ability, your value being here is that you can walk up to Corey House and shake his hand and
Right.
then have a different conversation like we're having today.
And there's energy there,
Right,
right? Like
right.
inspiration.
Right. And so I think there's value in recording in this world of Twitch and YouTube and all of these other things. I think to demystify some of the negativity that comes around a code review or comes
Yeah.
around seeking for help. I think we get very like, hey, if I ask, then I somehow not senior person anymore, so
Right.
maybe I shouldn't be of that level. So people tend to retract back or can't take criticism good.
Yeah.
Get it. I totally understand. But I think with Twitch and YouTube and Zoom and all that's out there, there's no reason that those things aren't achievable at just in a different variety.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a really interesting point about like demystifying code reviews, making them more accessible. One of the challenges with this event, I won't call it a meetup, that I was not prepared for was how difficult it would be to find mentees who are willing to come. So every month I've got like double the number of mentors signed up, like ready to jump in, and they really are enthusiastic and want to help. And then it takes a lot of coaxing because a lot of mentees are like, well, I don't have anything finished. I don't have anything big enough. I don't have anything I'm proud of, or I only have like my boot camp stuff. And trying to encourage, like, you don't need
there's
any
a bit
of
of
those
rookie
things.
there of like, one, it's never finished.
Yeah,
Two,
right?
right, ask earlier than later.
Yeah. So yeah, just trying to shift that thinking of like code review is not something to be scared of, and it's not the end product. It's something that you do every step of the way, and it's friendly.
Right.
I think is the other hard part because
Right,
it
right.
gets a really bad rap.
It does. Oh, it totally does.
Yeah.
And we've been in them before, or at least I've been in before, where they're like knockdown dragouts.
Oh, they're awful.
And you're just like, oh my. But I've also been in situations where we ended up and we were doing them like with every single PR and commit, and they were wonderful in the output because it was so open and transparent. Everybody benefited because you could ask the question like, okay, well, why were you thinking about it this way? I kind of was going down this path.
And it becomes an everyday thing, right? Like, you're not like, oh, I have my code review next week. It's just like every time I open a PR, somebody looks at it. And what's interesting is, so while we're like, I'm trying really hard to, you know, bring the mentees out of their shell and be like, just come. Like, the worst that's going to happen is you're not going to enjoy it, but you'll learn something. And then just don't come again. But we're also, because as senior engineers, like, we also have a bias against code reviews. Like, we've done a lot of coaching, like asynchronous coaching through email, like before they do the code review, of what to look for and how to write your feedback and like what language to use and what language to avoid. And I think it's really helped a lot of our mentors like shift their thinking about code reviews. And then the other part of you will pair with them on the feedback you give has also really helped because there's like that follow-up of like, okay, well, I told this person a thing.
Yeah, you have accountability too.
Yeah, like I want to be actionable and kind, and now I'm going to show them what I mean. And like that's helped a lot too. So, it's been really interesting to use code reviews and pairing as like the form of mentorship.
I mean, I know you keep talking about the people who come out of a boot camp, but I think of really. It is. I think of the high school student, the college student, junior is relative to anybody that's here. I mean, everybody that is in this audience should raise their hand and consider themselves a junior who's needing help. Right. Absolutely. So, okay, you know, I'm completely like asserting myself that I want us, that conference, and your thing to kind of figure out how we make a thing that like scales at and does this. Like, where do you feel like your challenges are? I mean, you mentioned one, just getting mentees, but as things grow, and we're standing over there talking about, well, the size of the conference, like I can't, how do you feed people and, you know, logo changing and register trademarks, right? Where do you feel like you're 3 months in, you started a meetup thing that's pretty new. It
is pretty new.
What's been, outside of just people, what's been kind of the challenges to kind of put the wood on the fire, if you will?
Yeah, I think... So getting the word out is always challenging. And I mean, I know that sort of goes with people, but just raising that awareness level of like, hey, there's this thing I'm doing. People are really into it. Like, you should try it. Like, I only know so many people. So marketing it has been really hard. And then just like trying to envision how it can grow, I think has also been a challenge where Corey was talking about, you know, when you're only thinking about the next few hours, it's really hard to get that like future focus. And so right now, you know, it's just me. I'm doing this, you know, every 4 weeks, just turning this out. And so it is hard to see like, okay, once this is established, like where can it go? Like what can we do with it and what can it become? And it's something that like people keep asking me about because there is a lot of enthusiasm in Chicago for something like this. And I'm kind of like, if you have ideas, I'm all ears because this is just me right now. And so like figuring out where to go, I'm like, I just need thoughts. So those are kind of my biggest challenges.
Okay. Well, I can certainly help fix that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Do you have a website yet?
I do.
And what is it?
It's
the people want to know.
Yeah, it's devtogetherchai.com. So Chai is in Chicago, CHI.
Oh, Chai. Okay.
Chai.
Oh.
Chai. I put out a poll on Twitter and no one responded. And I'm like, I have to say this out loud and I don't know how to say it.
But it's interesting. So you say that and I immediately hear the next step of like localizing chapters.
Yeah.
Right? Except you've taken away, like you have the domain, but you've kind of taken away the parents. So I love the dev together.
See, it's just me, and I couldn't afford devtogether.com. And I was like, oh, it's just in Chicago right now. We'll buy that one. I looked.
All fixable.
And I was like, oh, this is way more money than I am willing to put into this thing the first month.
I've been trying to get that domain.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, it's rough.
That's never going to happen at
Who
the level.
has it right now?
It's parked. It's parked.
And that's the That's even worse.
Yep.
You're like, you're not
I've
even
actually
using
talked
it.
to the individual.
Really?
Or the brokerage, yes.
They want a lot of money for it, don't they?
There's a lot of zeros on the back of that
Yeah.
four-letter domain.
Yeah, I bet.
So let's not look 3 months. Let's look the next 12. Let's
Okay.
picture ourselves sitting here again at that conference 2019. What would be success for you then?
Honestly, success, and maybe I'm thinking too small.
I'll let you know.
Okay. But I would love to be able to say, like, oh, you know, I do this event in Chicago, and when I say Dev Together, have people go, yeah, I've heard of it, and, like,
Okay.
talk about it, and, like, know.
So brand recognition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
It's interesting. It's
yeah.
interesting you went there.
Okay.
Keep going.
You want to give me your initial thoughts?
My initial thought is, I guess, the rhythm, the cadence of doing something every month or every X
Yeah.
is hard.
It
It's
is.
easy to do the first few.
Yeah. I'm already
It's
feeling that.
super hard to continue to do them after.
Yeah.
So I would say a big success was I clicked off January, February, March, April, May, June, July, all the way through
Yeah.
to December, and I made all 12.
That would be great. I would even build on that. Is to say if I can point to consistent numbers at every event, that would be successful to me. Even if it's just like 16 people, but I can say like I maintained that for a year would be great. Because what I've seen is the first event, you know, so it's the one where I have no idea what I'm
Yeah,
doing,
totally.
was
Yeah, those
40
are great.
people. And I was like, wasn't planning on you all
Yeah.
showing up. Like, this is, you know, and my company, DevMind, super great. They sponsored, and we were in every conference room. And I was just like, because I had, you know, our group
Yep.
space,
Yep.
but there was so much spillover that
Right,
literally I was like, any table that's open, just take it. Like, my boss won't care.
Yep.
And we had people everywhere. But, you know, every month, and it might be it's summer, there's a little bit less and a little bit less. So, like, maintaining that enthusiasm and
Yep.
maintaining people and, like, building that community and, like,
Yep.
having it really be, you know, a thing people look forward to and, like, want to come to every month would be awesome.
Yeah, and I would say I would have shifted that to say be a tool in their toolbox, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to want to show up. It's another thing to like assert and be active in it. Lots of people go to meetups and kind of sit in the back and hear, but
Yeah.
pound on the keyboard.
Yeah. Which
Not
is
a
not
lot-
really an option here.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. And it's the reason I've asked people to pull out their cell phone and record them
Yeah.
asking what community means to them, because now they're forced to answer their own question.
Right.
What else? So you make it 12
Yeah.
months. You get some brand recognition. It's kind of flywheel of the good wheel.
Yeah. Well, you bringing up local chapters, I think, is a place that I would love to take this, because I think to do the true face-to-face thing, you're going to need it in your city, right? Like, for people in Milwaukee or Detroit or New York to get the same experience, like, you would need somebody there,
Yep.
like, organizing it. You couldn't do that over Hangouts.
Yeah.
So, like, that would be amazing if I had people who were like, I want to do this thing. Let's figure out how to make it happen. Like,
Yeah.
you know, how do you do it? How do you organize it? What are the things that you need to
Right,
do
I
every
don't need
month?
to fall in my pitfalls. I mean, I tell
Yeah.
conference organizers all the time, do not start alone. Everybody else will tell you what's happened.
Yeah,
Don't assume.
right. Like, learn from everybody
Right,
around you.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if people were excited enough to want to bring it, like, that would be amazing too,
Yep.
because it's something, like, I've been thinking for months on. Well, I can tell you a little story about, like, how this whole thing
Please do.
started.
Yes.
So DevMind has an apprenticeship program, which, gosh, I wish more places did that.
Yep.
Like, I could talk for an hour just on apprenticeships. But, you know, we only opened up our long form application where it was like, here's some, not essay questions, but like paragraph questions. And we only had it open for 7 days, and we had 66 applicants. And it was just like,
Wow.
oh, okay, cool. We can only hire 2 of you, and now we have to, like, go through all of this. And going through all of those applications made me realize, like, how many people there are who will be great in this job, who are,
Right.
like, they're
Right.
going to be amazing. We do consulting, and so, like, we get a very specific, like, set of people, but they're
Sure.
going to make amazing consultants, and, like, they they're excited to learn, which I think is 90% of the challenge. They just, like, they didn't have enough of the foundations that, like, you know, we want them to grow. We want to get them from here to here, but they had to go from here to here. And, like, I want them to be successful and not feel overwhelmed. And so it feels like there needs to be more support to get them from, you know, end of school, whatever type of school that is, to first job right now. And so, like, that's where this whole thing started. And so if the industry was more excited about getting people through that first job and that coaching and, like, growing our junior talent, like, that's what I want to do with this. So, like, getting more people on board with that's the end goal.
Sure.
Like, the abstract mission.
Sure. All right, so I'm not even sure how long we've been talking. I think we could do this all day.
I know.
I'll throw it out like this. I would love to see you and I partner for the next 12 months.
Okay.
To get this off the ground.
Okay.
To come up with a plan that we can. I'll just forward to next August.
Okay.
I think next August we should be able to have a set of kids and a set of adults, so both sides of your spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Let's, outside of just kind of the junior dev, let's talk about the high school kid or the computer science people from Baraboo High School, which is just right somewhere. Have them come together here in August to have the face-to-face. Since everybody's here, our whole thing has been networking folks together. So can we get to a place where throughout the next 12 months we figure out how to better network folks together in scale, so that when you come to the end of a month in your chapter or their chapter, the linking isn't something like, well, here's the 25 things that I gotta, like, crawl through and figure out that this one needs to go here and this one needs to go there, but Jimmy John's gone, and like, that doesn't work.
Right.
And so that level of scale, if it's not sorted through now, when it does start to roll, then every chapter or whomever or every month starts to get away, and now and this is my own self-learning, the passion of why you started a thing becomes a job, and now you're beholden to the ball and chain trying to drag it through. And then you get so caught up into the logistics and machine of turning the wheel rather than innovating on the thing to take it to the next step. Right.
Just keep getting it better. Yeah.
And I think the mission that you have, while not necessarily defined, is fine. I love the intent of bringing the folks together. And I'd like to see us be able to use the platform that we have to say, hey, global scale, you could do this at any conference. Like, because we're trying to link people based upon their thing. So it should be an easy thing to go, oh, well, you're a React person this, and you're going to be here, or you want this webcam time. Hey, can we just kind of exchange this thing? And do this thing, and it's all kind of centered around it, just helping one another. Thing.
I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Great.
My wheels are just like spinning on. The missions are so close. You know, you have a very specific thing, which I think
start small.
Well,
I want to, like, master this and then
totally, but I mean, forgetting all the other stuff, just the ability to help people in that context, I think is good. So, yeah, that's cool.
Awesome.
That's cool. Well, Mercedes, you don't get to leave without answering the question.
Right.
And you've said it a few times today, which I think this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
How would you define community?
I've had some time to think about it since seeing the clip yesterday. Yeah. So for me personally, and I am not going to be as eloquent as I would love to be, but yeah. So for me, I think community, and some of the people in your video touched on this, it's about support. Mm-hmm. Like, that's huge for me. Yep. But not even just support, but I feel like there's this sense of supporting different perspectives and supporting, like, it's great for us all to come together as, like, here are the ways that we, like, what we have in common, but then, and supporting that, of course, but also supporting, like, you do something different, but here's how I can help you, or you come from a completely different background than me, like, here's how I can support you. Like, amplifying the voices within your community is so important for me, and being inclusive, so bringing in anybody who wants to be part of your community. That's really huge for me.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool.
Well, Mercedes,
it was great talking to you.
Thank you. I am looking forward to us working together next year. And, you know, it's recorded now, so it's out there. Everybody said it. Like, we can't back out. Like, it's got to be done.
Verbal contract.
You're going to force me to drive to Chicago. Oh,
it's
so
rough.
far.
I know, but the food, the city, the lights, theater, whatever you're into. I don't know what you're into. There's something for you, right?
Right, but I moved out to the country. No, I'm kidding.
You got to come back. You have friends.
I do.
Yeah.
There it goes.
Done.
All right. Thank you for watching. Mercedes, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And we would love to know your thoughts on this topic.
Yes,
so
please.
Here's the machine, right? The machine started. We're recording a podcast. The podcast gets pushed out. We're on Facebook Live. Drop a comment. Tell us if you'd be interested in having your own chapter. Tell us how you think it would scale better. Support, right? Sponsor, space. Like all of those are things that are required to pull off efforts like this. So
yeah, and if you have thoughts directly about the Dev Together meetup, we are Dev Together Chai on all of our social media. So just drop us a line.
Drop us a line.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.